אני גמורה, הוא זרק אותי.
איפה?
ההיא פיטרה.
איפה?
ודודה שלי מלכה אותי.
איפה?
מה איפה? בחיפה, מה עכשיו? שאלות. נו, מה אתה ידרום?
שלום, שלום וברוכים הבאים להכי ישראלי ברדיו ג'ודאיקה 90.2 FM בבריסל, שמתחממת שגית.
הלו, הלו, ברוכים הבאים.
מה קורה? אנחנו תכף משנות שפה.
וואלה?
כן. Today we have with us Mr. Ashriel Moore, and we're going to talk about the Israelite community in Dimona. And over the past year or so, we've had the opportunity to meet quite a lot of people and get introduced to many topics. And one topic that has become quite close to our heart and has also stirred our curiosity, and we thought that it would be a very good opportunity to also share it with the Jewish communities and the listeners of Radio Judaica, is about the community of the Dimona Hebrew community. And so we have with us today Mr. Ashriel Moore, who is an Israeli activist, a media personality, and known for his role as the spokesman for the community, representing their values, representing their initiatives, their cultural heritage. Hello, Mr. Moore. How are you doing?
Hello, and
How are
good
you?
evening to you both. I'm well. How are you?
Very well, thank
We are
you.
very well, and we are very happy that my accent, by the way, my accent is good as her. No, I'm kidding.
I just had a hot
Sound good,
potato.
so
I had a hot potato before I got here. That's the trick.
It's her New York roots.
No, my New York roots are how you chocolate, coffee.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. And how is life?
First of all, thank you for having me. And I think life is more challenging, but also very interesting, because there are a lot of great things that are happening alongside some very trying times. So I guess during this period of time, asking how's life, I think, asking anyone who resides now in Israel, how's life, I'm sure that you'll get 100,000 different interpretations of what life is now. But for me, life is very, very interesting, I would say. On one hand, I've had a new baby girl born
Mazel
just 2 months
tov.
ago. Thank you. And, I'm continuing with my activism as well, and continuing to provide a new voice for Israel, for my community, for people of African ancestry in Israel, and just giving a different perspective. But on the other end, we are hurting because of the very challenging moments that we're in right now. People are still held hostage. We're looking at an ongoing war where there's no clear indication for when it's going to be over. And it's just so much death and destruction. So trying to kind of balance out the both of those, I guess, if you ask me again, how's life? I would say that it is pretty much a whirlwind at the moment.
Before we continue with the questions about the community or your activities, we know you're a public figure, but who is, you're smiling because you know what I'm going to ask.
No, because I'm not a public figure. I'm just a regular person.
Yeah, but even public figures, yes, indeed, are regular person with different kind of activities, let's say. And
Okay.
we know what we see on the media, but especially now that you became a dad, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Not the persona that everyone knows by the media.
Well, I mean, it seems to me that you're bigging it up more than what it is. I'm just a normal person just trying to contribute my portion to the world. But so I'm from the Hebrew Israelite community in Dimona, and I'm the youngest child of 15 siblings to my parents.
15?
I was 15, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot, right?
And we are
Yeah.
tired. Oh,
So you have a little more work to do.
yeah.
Yes.
To be able to at least get to the middle, let's
Yeah.
say 7 or 8, and then we can continue from
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And so I born and raised in Dimona, did the military, and then I finished and went to college in IDC in the Benchumi Herzliya.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, it was just a matter of me kind of finding my way in the world. So you would do a few jobs here, some small things here, just really trying to understand what's my purpose. And along the time, getting to know new people, delving into different areas, and just really trying to understand me better, trying to know. I mean, you asked me
Yeah.
who I am, but I'm still going through the process of really understanding myself even better.
Yeah.
And every stage of my life, when I mean, get married and you have children and all of these things, I'm me myself. I'm being exposed to another side of me that I never even knew existed. So for me, along these periods of time, I guess I'm becoming more exposed to myself. So I don't even know how to give you in a box form who Ashriel is. The only thing that I could be able to say to you is that Ashriel is just a young boy from the community in Dimona, residing here in Israel, looking to make a difference, looking to give his part to the world. And that's what you see. And everything that you see is what you get. It's not, you
Yeah.
don't have two different people. You don't have a person who, I'm very private, of course. But at the same time, whatever it is that I speak and whatever it is that I expose on social media, that's me.
What you see, it's
Um,
what you get.
what
There
you
is
see
no
is what you
Yeah.
get.
facade.
Yeah.
If you're looking for something else, you're not going to get it
Yeah.
because it doesn't exist. But I mean, like everybody else, I like to enjoy life, to travel, various hobbies, enjoying myself at parties, and every now and then having a cup of wine, and going out restaurants and enjoying friends and enjoying family. These things are very important to me.
Yeah.
Continuing to feed my brain, feed my mind with reading, with being exposed to new cultures, new traditions, new peoples. So, I think it's just a multi-layered person who at every juncture in his life, he's becoming more familiar with another layer because we continue to
And
peel it
yeah.
off as we go.
And at what juncture did you decide that you wanted to be the spokesman or the ambassador for the Middle East or the spokesman for the community? There are many titles that are associated with your name, and it's a baggage that you carry and a responsibility and also a huge purpose. So at what juncture did that happen?
I can't even really say where, because it was a developing thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably say from the moment that I became more familiar with the external society in Israel, because I was raised in a community, there's a small community, and because of circumstances in Israel, then we were forced to kind of be closed in because the outer society kind of rejected us, and so because of circumstances, we kind of became a closed community. They didn't want us, so we had to kind of fend for ourselves. But later on, once I started becoming more familiar with the outside, so being part of international programs for youth development, and programs for youth sports, and representation of Israel in certain areas like that, then I started understanding that the more I speak about the place that I come from, the more people become curious, because it's like even though we exist here, people are almost oblivious of our existence. So when I speak about it, it's like, who, where, what? You're full vegan. You don't eat any meat. You've been like this your entire life. You have 15 siblings. All these things are kind of wowing.
Yeah.
Yes.
You speak English and you speak Hebrew this way. How? Where did your parents come from? Who are you? Are you Jewish? No, you're not. You're Hebrew. So what is
Yeah.
he? So what's the difference between a Hebrew and a Jew? And so all of these things kind of thrusted me into a space where I was forced to represent my community because I was always out there and people were asking questions, and so I had to just answer the questions. But from that juncture on, going forward, that was I think that was the point for me that really caused me to start speaking more about the community. Now, in regards to the representation of the African diaspora in Israel, I think just over the last, I would say, about 10 years, when I became more active um, in regards to other people's struggles as well. Because I realized that there were struggles that we were experiencing, but then there were a lot of similar struggles as well. Say, for example, in the Ethiopian Beta Israel community,
Yeah.
that I recognize also within my community. And so I became more vocal about the things that they're experiencing as well. And they spoke about things that we're experiencing, and we had to create that bond, understanding that we're kind of experiencing some of the very similar things. And so from that point, it was just like, okay, now I need to help to amplify their voices while they amplify ours. So I wanted to amplify their voices. And so with us working together as one unit, it gives the both of us, not only both of our communities, but other African communities in Israel, a stronger platform to stand on, because now we're operating as opposed to every one of us, our communities individually, we're working now as a unit. And so I recognize the power in that. And so I took it upon myself also to now be a voice. And then when the opportunity came to be able to represent the entire diaspora of African people in Israel, for me, it was a no-brainer because I was already doing it. So I said, of course, absolutely.
Before we continue with your activity, you mentioned that people has a lot of questions, and I would like for our listeners who are not familiar with this community, if you could a bit explain what exactly is the Israeli,
The Hebrew Israelite.
yeah, the Israel.
So the Hebrew Israelite community, generally in Dimona, is a community that returned from the diaspora in America after 2,000 years of exile from Israel and 400 years of slavery in America. We know that the children of Israel who were all here in Israel prior to the exiles by the Assyrians, by the Babylonians, by the Romans, they found refuge in different places in the world. So you had some who found refuge in North Africa. You had some who went down to Yemen. You had some who went down to Ethiopia. You had some who went to West Africa. You had some who were taken captive into Europe.
Okay.
But you also had those who migrated to West Africa and found refuge there for a period of time. And then they were taken into America, into North America, South America, and also in the Isles of the Caribbean and enslaved there by European enslavers. And so only after a period of time when we were able to once again practice our Hebraic traditions outwardly did we take that upon ourselves once again. Now, we are part of those tribes of Israel who people call lost tribes, but we're not lost at all because we always knew our roots. We always knew who we were, where we were from. We just didn't have the opportunity to continue to outwardly express that because it was suppressed by the captors in America and in other places in the world. And so only when we have that opportunity once again to express ourselves outwardly and freely, then did we do so. So we don't identify as Jews because as far as we're concerned, and as far as the Bible is concerned in history, we know that there were 12 tribes of Israel, not only one tribe, but we also know that there was two kingdoms of Israel and of Judah. And so those people who came from Judea, who were, the tribe of Judah, Levi, and Benjamin, a bit, all of them were considered at one point or another Jews because they lived in Judea. But you also had those people who continued to live in Israel or in the northern kingdom, but they were never considered Jews or Judeans. And so a significant amount of those from the northern kingdom are the progeny of the people who consider themselves today as Israelites. So we are Hebrew Israelites because Hebrews come from Abraham. Okay. Abraham was a Hebrew. He wasn't a Jew. He wasn't an Israelite. But his grandson, as a matter of fact, Jacob, was then named Israel. And then from Israel, right, the nation of Israel, you have all 12 tribes of Israel. And so all 12 tribes are not called Jews, but are called the nation of Israel or the Hebrew nation. And so we are Hebrews because we come from the progeny of Abraham, and we are Israelites because as opposed to going through Esau or Ishmael, we went through, our progeny continues through Isaac and then Jacob and then the 10 tribes of Israel,
I
or the
see.
12 tribes of
Interesting.
Israel.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you practice, you have Hebraic practices. What are the core values of your beliefs? How do they actually differ from Judaism? Is there any difference in that respect?
So the foundation of our belief is the Torah.
Mm-hmm.
But we also take into consideration the Nevi'im, which are the scribes, and then the Nevi'im, who are the prophets, and then the Ketuvim, who are the scribes. And so we are founded on the Tanakh, on the Torah, but remain within the confines of the biblical traditions, the Torah traditions. But Judaism generally is not only based on the Torah traditions, but it's also based on the extra biblical traditions and interpretations like the
The Talmud.
Talmud.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our core values are just based on the Torah
Okay.
itself.
Okay.
But the Jewish tradition is also based on the interpretations
Yeah.
of the sages that are extra biblical, and the majority of them are found in the Torah and the Gemara, in the Talmud and the Gemara and the Mishnah, and also in other interpretations. So those things I would say are the differentiation between us continuing to hold on to the first temple traditions, as opposed to the traditions that are developed after the fall of the second temple in 70 AD, and then the sects that came out of there, and then the rise of what is called today rabbinical Judaism, that it come as, you know, a continuation after the fall of the second temple. But we maintain the first temple traditions.
And since you came back to live in Israel, as you said, do you see any development or change in the way that the community is living, or the mentality, the culture, anything change, or you keep it as it was?
Well, you know, as time goes on, you become more exposed, and things change as you go, because you adapt to the direction the world is going in now. But you also have to make sure that you are in alignment still with your core values, but at the same time, you're not getting left behind.
Can we talk?
Adapt it.
Can we talk about kale?
Okay.
Can we talk about kale? In doing research for this podcast, I came to find out, which I didn't know before, that actually you believe you have in vegan diet. And why? Can you share with us what is the
root?
Yeah, what is the root of that, and are there any good recipes, any good vegan recipes?
Any good
Should we
recipes?
come over
Are you considering becoming vegan?
No.
No, I am a fruitarian.
Oh no. Okay, no, not at all. Okay, you know, there's one thing. There's one thing that I always say to non-vegans, and that's the only reason why you are non-vegan is because you haven't really been exposed to real vegan food. But if I give you options that both taste good, smell good, have great textures, season well, and reminds you of some of the greater things that you love to eat.
I don't know. Or it's because we were exposed to a good steak.
Yeah, all right.
It's also a...
But there is a good chance I come to visit.
But we are open-minded.
Yeah.
We like to taste...
So we were talking about kale. And we were talking about veganism, which is a part of your dietary principles. And I was wondering if you could share what is the origin of that, what is the belief or the value that is behind that, and whether you have good recipes.
The reason why we're vegan is for a few reasons. First of all, it starts with the biblical reason. In the Bible, in Genesis 1:29, it says, I have given you all of the trees and all of the fruits bearing seed, and they should be for you as meat, which in our interpretation and understanding, that means that that was the preferred diet for the body of human beings that allows us to be able to receive all the nutrients that we need so that our bodies could be able to operate properly. Then it moves over into the health aspect. And we realize that 10 out of 10 of the chronic ailments that people in the world experience is directly connected to their diet and the consumption of meat, eggs, dairy, and other milk, and obviously other animal byproducts. Then we move over to the humanitarian aspect, and we say that there's no difference between a cow and a cat and a pig and a chicken. They all want to live. So it's our responsibility to allow them as our co-species on this planet to live, because we know that 80 billion animals are being slaughtered every day for the consumption of human beings. As far as we're concerned, that's not a humanitarian thing to do, because we can't be so interested in the preservation of life for human beings, but then we see our co-species as, not worthy of living, or we decide who is worthy of living. So we, have more compassion on a dog, or we have more compassion on a cat, as opposed to having compassion, the same type of compassion on a sheep, on a goat, on a cow, and on other animals. But then we move over to the effect that it has on our planet, and we realize that some of those gases that are being emitted through the meat and dairy industry have a very huge effect on the water, on the pollution of the water, the pollution of the air, on the ozone layer. And so all of these things are things that we have to experience, because we have to drink that water and we have to breathe that air. And the ozone layer is supposed to protect us, but by us destroying our own environment for us to be able to eat these animals, in our minds, that's absolutely absurd. So all four of these aspects is what actually leads us into consuming foods that are compatible with the body, because our bodies are made up of all of the minerals and all the nutrients that are found in the earth. And so instead of, for example, eating a cow that actually eats from the earth, or eating a sheep that actually eats from the earth, or eating a chicken that eats grains, we just think it plays out better for us to just go ahead and eat from the source that they're eating from. We don't need to get it secondhand. We can eat it from the source. So that's the foundation of that.
I want
Do you eat chocolate, Shachar? There's no milk in it. It says parve.
It's vegan. It's only oil with some color.
Yeah, where does chocolate meet you?
We are in Belgium and we still eat chocolate shachar. It doesn't matter how long you live here and how many chocolate you are surrounded by. We got
hooked on the chemicals.
There's some things that you can't let go of.
Yeah, exactly. This is the roots of our culture.
I understand.
I would like to ask you, what are the challenges that the community faces in Israel today?
Well, first of all, Israel is not very much welcoming to people who they don't consider Jews, unfortunately. We speak about it very often, and we try to make these the explanations for these things are absolutely incredible, but for some reason, the institutions and the governments believe that Israel is just a utopia for all people, which unfortunately they don't treat all people as people who deserve dignity in Israel, unfortunately. And so, even though we have contributed so much to Israel since Israel was just 20 years old, so from 1968 up until this very moment today, the institutions, primarily the Ministry of Interior and the Israeli government, since then have never really saw us as an intricate part of the society. The Israeli people do consider us as fellow brothers and sisters, but the institutions and the governments do not. So one of the things that they've always tried to do is to prevent us from being able to have all access to the Israeli society and the institutions, and really suppressing us, causing us to remain internal within the community. And so they would deport people out of Israel and separate families. And even now, there are people who are threatened with deportation out of Israel after they have been born and raised here and contributed so. Yes, ma'am. Today, right now, in the midst of this war. Number one. Number two, the living conditions in the community are known not to be living conditions for long term. It was never said that we were going to remain within such a small community, even though we built up that community to what it is today. But still, the community has increased. The people have increased. The foundation of the community itself and all the infrastructure is not 2025 worthy. And so we were looking to actually move to a new community, what they had been talking about since 2011, as a matter of fact. But we're still in the same place 14 years later, unfortunately. Also, there are people who still don't have access to fundamental institutions like health institutions, so that women, for example, who birth children in the hospital, but they needed to pay 15,000 shekels each time that they birth a child in the hospital because they don't have the health coverage, because the government refuses to provide to them, health coverage, or at least fundamental things. Okay, you don't want to give them citizenship, but at least give them fundamental access to these things.
Yeah, basic
great
needs.
majority of the community members do not have Israeli citizenship. So during periods of time, like, for example, the COVID-19 and other times, they've made it immensely challenging for people who leave Israel to come back. So that's been a major issue. So all of these things are major challenges that the community face at the hands of the Israeli government and the Israeli institutions. They would try and have everybody believe that the government and the institutions are very welcoming, and we love everybody who reside here, and we are very welcoming of all of our minority communities, and we are one big mosaic of people who are, because even in the Jewish culture and in the Israelite culture as well, Abraham was one of the biggest, what we call machnise orchim, right? One of the biggest hosts of guests, and also one of the foundations of both Israelite tradition and Jewish tradition is that love thy neighbor as thyself. V'ahavta l'recha kamocha. But then another one is that you should remember to treat the foreigners in a good way because you were foreigners in the land of Egypt. That's a fundamental principle that you have to remember, because you were once in a position where you were not the ones who were ruling, and you needed somebody to have compassion and to assist you. But now when you get to a point where you are the rulers, you've totally forgotten about that, and you're oppressing others because they're not in alignment with how you believe they should live, which is very unfortunate. And so that's a major crutch for the community. And if imagine so many great things that we've done over the years, representing Israel, bringing incredible people like Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown, and all these people to Israel. as ambassadors of goodwill and representing Israel in certain international institutions. Imagine what we could have done had we been fully accepted into the Israeli society by these institutions and by these governments. It could have been so much better. But unfortunately, when you have a racist mind, that you really have you don't have the ability to be able to separate color from content of people's character, then you have an internal sickness and disease. That sickness and disease doesn't allow you the ability to be able to understand the kind of quality that the people don't look like you, but they have as human beings, and then you respect that and appreciate that. It's unfortunate, but yeah.
You're saying very important things, and I would like to ask, because you, for the last year, more than a year, you are defending Israel as well, and you are protecting the people who lives in Israel. How does it align, or how does it make you feel when you, I would say, suffer or
when you're
receiving
subject to inequality?
Exactly, you receive this treatment from the official offices in Israel, and on the other hand, you give your heart for them, for us, for everyone.
So it's very challenging because, on one hand, yes, we are on the front line of defense, not only of Israel in the verbal aspect, but also we're the only community that serves 100% in the IDF. So
without being Israelis,
without being Israeli citizens, but our defense is not, and I have to separate this. We're not defending the government of Israel or the governmental institutions of Israel. What we're defending is our inalienable rights to exist in our ancestral homeland alongside everybody else who reside here. And it makes us no difference who you are. You could be an Arab, you can be a Druze, you can be a Bedouin, you can be a Cherkessan, you can be a Moroccan Jew, a Yemenite Jew, Ashkenazi Jew, a foreigner residing here. It makes us no difference. We all have the right to be able to exist in security and in peace within, this small territory. So, and the majority of us didn't come to Israel because we were looking for refuge. A significant amount of people came to Israel because we really wanted to return home. We really saw this as our ancestral home. And so we left back in all of the trinkets that we could have had. We could have had greater houses and better opportunities and American passports and all these things. But people gave up all of those things to come to Israel because we have a deeper, more spiritual connection and desire to connect once again to our ancestral roots that gives us a strength in the spiritual realm. So for us, it was a spiritual move. And so we came here for that purpose. So yes, we will defend Israel with all our hearts, soul, and might, and whatever is required of us to do so, and all of the citizens and the residents of Israel will do so. But it has nothing to do with the Israeli government. Yeah. The Israeli government and the governmental institutions, they represent what they represent. They do what they want to do, and it's not necessarily even in alignment with the greater majority of Israeli residents or Israeli citizens. So we're not the only people who have a problem with the Israeli government. You have Israelis who are full citizens who are going out and protesting against the government. You have Druze who are full citizens who are going out and protesting against the government. You have Ethiopian Jews who came to Israel to live in peace and in harmony, who are out protesting against the oppression and the degradation that we're experiencing at the hands of the government. So the government is the problem. The institutions are the problem, not the people, not the land. And so we defend the people who reside on this land, whoever they are, and not the Israeli government and the Israeli governmental institutions.
Why do you think you spoke about racism before? Do you think that it's a racism of color or acceptance of things that are different? Where do you Where do you draw the line for you? Because you now mentioned also other communities. So,
Sure.
yeah.
So I don't need to draw the line. I think the lines have been drawn a long time ago. When you had the Parashat Yaldei Teiman, the children, the Yemeni children who were kidnapped a long time ago. When you had the Black Panthers who rose in Israel in the 1970s from the eastern countries who said that they felt that they were being oppressed in Israel by the Ashkenazi elite. You had today people who say that there's Israel Arishona, Israel Ashniya, the first Israel and the second Israel, where one typecast of Israelis are the ones who are in the most sanctified places of power in all the institutions of Israel, and then they're preventing all of the other sectors from being able to also share that power. Right now, you have those who are saying that there needs to be a reform in the judicial Supreme Court because there is not proper representation of all of Israeli society in these institutions. So I don't have to draw the line. The line has been drawn already. We're just saying that this is another portion of that. But besides that, you also have the racial aspect. Yes, there is a major issue with race in Israel because I'll give you a few examples. What is the difference between those people who are currently in Ethiopia, who are experiencing war, and half of their families are here in Israel, and somehow the Israeli institutions cannot find the budget necessary to be able to bring them here, but we had enough money to be able to bring as many Ukrainians as possible to Israel as soon as the war broke out? How is that possible? How is it possible that they had to establish, a governmental unit to fight against racism, right, in the Ministry of Justice, because there's so many racial and discriminatory cases taking place in Israel? Why is it that every year we have to speak about the fact that there are people, for example, you had just a few years ago a case where in a winery, they wouldn't allow for some Ethiopians to work there in the winery, and if they did touch the wine, then that wine was then considered not kosher. So, all of these things are clear. I mean, now, are you going to tell me that that's by chance? No, that's not by chance. That's by design, and that's something that's very clearly racialized. Now, you had also in 2022, you had a conference in Israel at the ANU museum. And in that conference, it was mentioned, one of the things that were mentioned afterwards, they were talking about the diaspora of those who have an affinity to Israel. But one of the things that were mentioned was that there's a built-in bias against people racially within various ministries, namely the Ministry of Interior in Israel. And this is something that needs to be worked on and worked out. So, I mean, I can give you examples from our own experience, but when you have so many other examples that are showing that this is a pattern, then, something has to be done with that. But so long as people want to continue to turn a blind eye to it, I think it's very hard to admit when there is racial discrimination in a society. It's very hard to admit that because nobody wants to feel like they're part of a society that is racist towards people because of their skin color. But look, the only way we could be able to deal with it is we have to look at it in its eye. We have to deal with the truth, and then once we are able to deal with the truth, then everything else would be aligned.
Do you think the situation now in Israel increased this problem, or it didn't affect, or you can see improvement, more togetherness and solidarity?
Again, I think that on the social level, on a social level with the Israeli society, is very different from the Israeli government and the governmental institutions. Socially, of course, there's very strong social cohesion. We understand, obviously, that each of us are kind of experiencing some of the same experiences. And so as a result, our destiny is kind of tied into one another. And so we need to look over our shoulder, because when we're in the military, for example, nobody's asking, are you a Hebrew Israelite who is of my color, or are you an Ashkenazi of that color? Um, we have to depend on one another to protect each other in a case where we may be in danger and in harm's way. So we learned that social cohesion, and then specifically right now, I mean, with so many people of African ancestry being slaughtered also on October 7th, and during this bloody war over such a long period of time, we understand that we have to work together. But then on the governmental level, and some of the governmental institutions in the ministries, I think is for them, it's a hasbara opportunity to be able to show, hey, we have all of these people who are all part of our society, and it's very different and very diverse. So to kind of fight a lot of the disinformation from the outside, saying that Israel is a white colonial state and all of these things. So now you want to inject all of these communities who you don't care about, who you don't help, who you continue to oppress, who you continue to mistreat, only because you think that this will maybe help to dispel some of the myths that people are talking about on the outside. And so it's just, a useful tactic trying to show. But on the governmental level, of course not. Today, there were people out protesting outside of the Knesset about the young girl Haymanut,
Yeah.
who's been, who was kidnapped, and then nobody knows where she is now. But the institutions and the police and the government, I mean, it's just like another day. They just continue
they
on with their
continue
lives.
and do nothing. Yeah.
Nothing at all.
It's a lot of struggle and frustration. Not easy on a daily basis to do this kind of activity. Where do you find the strength to continue, especially in difficult times?
I would say first, I draw the strength from my belief in what it is that I do. Because I don't do it for money. There's not any money in it. I don't do it for fame, because you get defamed by doing those things, because you have people who are here who are criticizing you and people who are there who are criticizing you. So it's like you're in a very lonely place. So I have to really believe, which I do, in the purpose for which I'm fighting, and that's to be able to bring forth a more prosperous and a cleaner and a better society that we could all be able to live in, that we want to live in, that we envision ourselves being able to live in. Also, seeing the difference amongst the people. For example, we have some of the people who were threatened with deportation from our community. They now have at least A5 status, or temporary residency. It's not really citizenship, but it's at the least, a step forward. You could see how this really gave them major relief.
Yeah.
Right. But then also, I believe wholeheartedly in God, and when I pray, I do pray that God continues to give me strength,
Amen,
and courage to be able to stand on the battlefield for truth and for what's right, and to not compromise on those principles no matter what I'm faced with. And that's the kind of faith that I move with. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's very challenging. Sometimes you think to yourself, like, I don't need this. Maybe I just need to go and just get a regular job and
9 to 5.
Let it be. But I can't let it go, because it's part of me. I represent something way bigger than myself, and I wasn't the one who chose to be here. I think it was something that chose me. So it's my responsibility then to be able to see it all the way through. And I believe the society could and would change, but it would have to take some brave soldiers to stand up to, the injustices, and to speak about them and speak truth to power. So and whatever happens, happens. So I think that's where I get my my strength and my vigor to continue.
Do you pray in Hebrew?
Uh-huh.
Do you pray in Hebrew?
Do I what? Do I pray in Hebrew? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I pray in Hebrew. I can't see you, by the way. So you're like halfway out of the camera.
I
You're like
am
this.
just as good looking as I was as I was 20 minutes ago.
Before we
Before we close.
we close,
Yeah.
what okay, המרוץ למיליון,
The Amazing Race.
it's done. What
It's
are
done.
you what would you do today to boost your energy, to have some fun, be more
What would I do to have fun? You could always go to a good party,
true?
right? You could always get together with family and friends and have a good laugh. Seeing my baby girl is always incredible now.
Amazing.
It's amazing. Enjoying my beautiful wife.
She is
That's-
beautiful. She's
And
amazing.
talented. Yes.
Hamsa.
I can't say it better. Yes.
A beautiful family.
And and my community members and just friends, and just continuing to uplift my spirit by doing things that I enjoy doing. Traveling the world, continuing to experience new experiences, do crazy things like jumping out of planes. And, there are a lot of incredible things that you can continue doing to just enjoy life. And I make sure that I do enough of that I could feel fulfilled also, but not feel that I am draining myself to a point where I have no energies left because I'm just always fighting.
Yeah.
Because part of it for me as well is to maintain my sanity. And maintaining my sanity means that I need to also do things sometimes that are totally detached from all of the hard work and all of the fights. Just so my soul could be able to get a bit of rest and to reinvigorate and to be prepared now to get back out to the battlefield. So I think I do enough to be able to enjoy myself.
And is the community open to visitors?
new members? What?
No, to visitors. Like, could we come and visit? Are there, is it open to receive people that are different?
Yeah, vegan restaurants for you.
Are there vegan restaurants where I could try kale in a different way?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we are more than happy to always host anybody who's interested in coming to visit us. It's wide open. It's wide open. The community is very much open to everybody. And as a matter of fact, I invite anybody who is interested in visiting the community to come and to see and to experience. And I think it'll be one of the most, if not the most, impactful experiences that you may have in Israel, because it's like none other. Israel is very, very diverse. There are a lot of incredible communities and a lot of different people. But I think that there's nothing that represents a different Israel or a more progressive Israel or the idea of what Israel could be going forward than a village of peace that is built on fundamental principles like peace, like love, like justice, like family, like equality. All of these things are engraved in our DNA. And I think that we could be able to use that as a model for what Israel could be going forward if we just do the right thing.
So we invite all our listeners to travel not so far if you're in Israel, or if you go to Israel, to visit an island of sanity, something that is that connects us to our roots, connects us to our history.
By the way, the American government actually referred to our community as an island of sanity and a phenomenon in a land of phenomenons. Yeah. So I don't know if you heard that before, but
no, I just came up with it now. because that's really... Yeah.
No, you didn't. You heard
Yeah,
that
no,
before.
no. I really, when you were talking this whole time, this is the one thing, and it's, by the way, the reason why we started this podcast. And we don't talk about politics. We don't touch on those things because we needed sanity.
Exactly.
Because we needed a moment to disconnect from reality and look at things
find our place
and
of
to find
peace
our center. And so it really this is the thing that came across. So no, I didn't, but I think that we're connecting on that level, and I think that your message is loud and clear, and we're sitting here in the studio and we're energized by your message. I was sitting like this, and I'm like all straight, because it's.
So we hope you continue with this amazing mission. You were chosen, huh? Don't forget that, and we wish you always to have this good energy and to succeed whatever you do. And keep that smile and continue to grow, and don't go 9 to 5, because it's in you, and we need people like you.
It's clearly a calling, and I know that next time that I'll be in Israel, I will come to.
Well, they say the people of my color can't blush, but I'm blushing right now. So I just want you to know that I appreciate the both of you so much for really allowing me the opportunity to be on this platform with you all, and to speak to your audiences, and to speak to you, and to share these things that I believe in my whole heart that are a foundation for a great future, and and for people to hear something that is not regularly or normally heard from within Israel. I think is something that also should give a boost of energy, not only in times of us just being united and enjoying, but it also calls for times for us to also do some reflection and some introspection, so that not only on Yom Kippur, we have a time to be able to really reflect on things, and then see what needs to be changed, and then take the practical steps to actually change those things. Because I think it's a great thing to be able to receive constructive criticism, especially for a land and a country that you love so much.
Yes.
If I didn't care,
it's usually come from love.
That's what that's, at least for me, it only comes from love.
I feel the same.
I will continue to speak about it so long as it doesn't change, because I love Israel that much to know what it can be and what it should be if it does go the way that it can go. So,
and we will finish with the prayer that may it be.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for being with us today.
תודה רבה.
We really
Thanks
appreciate it, and we wish you best of luck. תודה. ותודה לכל המאזינים שלנו ברדיו ג'ודאיקה 90.2 בבריסל. שיהיה לכם ערב נפלא, ותישארו איתנו עד לפודקאסט.